Have you ever imagined living in a world where, for 3 consecutive days, the sky is completely dark? And not just any darkness, but a darkness so dense that you can't see anything. Not the light of the stars, not the light of the moon, not even the weak glow of a candle. Now, imagine that during these 3 days, evil forces, like demons, walk the earth, spreading chaos and destruction wherever they go. This is the scenario many believe will happen, based on a very ancient prophecy mentioned in the Bible. Sounds like something out of a horror movie, right? But what if I told you that this prophecy has been spoken of by saints and very devout people throughout history, and that some believe this catastrophic event could happen at any moment? Would you be scared? In today's video, we'll explore chilling facts and what is said about how to prepare for this event, which for many might be more real than it seems. Before we proceed, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more content like this that will leave you stunned. Now, imagine that suddenly the sun goes out. The day turns into night, but a night so dark, so deep, that not even the stars appear. This is the description of what many believe is the prophecy of the 3 days of darkness, which is linked to a biblical passage. According to the prophecy, the earth will be covered by total darkness, and during these 3 days, the world will be plagued by demons. They will roam the earth, spreading destruction, fear, and suffering, leaving a trail of chaos. Now, what do you think could happen to humanity during these days of darkness? How can we prepare for something so terrible and beyond our control? Believers who follow this prophecy say that the only way to protect yourself is to stay inside, completely isolated from the outside world. You might be thinking, but why stay inside? What's going to happen outside? Well, according to the prophecy, anyone who dares to open the window or leave their house during this deadly time would be putting themselves in danger. Believe it or not, those who do so, according to this belief, would fall dead instantly. But don't worry, you don't need to panic, because there is a way to protect yourself, according to those who believe in this prophecy. During these 3 days, it is recommended that people stay inside, with all doors and windows closed and covered. Instead of being anxious or fearful, they should pray, repent for their sins, and most importantly, use sacred objects called sacramentals. For example, blessed candles are seen as one of the only sources of light and protection during this period. Can you imagine spending 3 days in total darkness, with no light at all? Only the help of blessed candles to light your way and protect your house? That sounds terrifying, right? But what many say is that these 3 days would also be a period of purification. Those who are spiritually prepared and praying would be protected, while those who are not prepared would go through moments of suffering, facing the forces of evil. Do you think you would be ready to face something like this? Stay with me until the end, because the story doesn't end here. I will tell you more about this prophecy, other scary aspects of this prediction, and perhaps what you can do to protect yourself. Who knows, what is said in this prophecy might actually have something to do with what is yet to come. The prophecy of the 3 days of darkness did not originate from a single source, but is associated with several saints and mystics throughout history. Among the most mentioned names are Saint Hildegard of Bingen and Saint Teresa of Ávila, 2 prominent figures in the Catholic Church. Both lived in different times, but surprisingly, their visions and teachings seem to align with the idea of this great darkness. Saint Hildegard, known for her mystical prophecies and deep spiritual visions, foretold a dark future where humanity would face great trials. Saint Teresa of Ávila, in turn, also shared messages that suggested a purification and divine punishment for humanity. In addition to these figures, the prophecy is often linked to biblical events, particularly the plagues of Egypt described in the book of Exodus. During this passage, one of the plagues that struck Egypt was a deep darkness that covered the land, leaving the Egyptians in complete terror. Many believe that the prophecy of the 3 days of darkness is related to this plague, a repetition or reinforcement of divine punishment, this time for humanity as a whole. Furthermore, the book of Revelation by John, the last book of the Bible, is another connection to the prophecy. In Revelation, cataclysmic events are mentioned that would occur at the end of times, including great destructions, signs in the sky and the air, and a darkness enveloping the earth. The connection to the darkness described by John, especially in the sixth seal, has led many to draw parallels. However, it is important to highlight that the Catholic Church has never officially taken a position on the truth of this prophecy. While some Catholics accept it as a divine warning, the Church, by its authority and tradition, does not publicly endorse these visions as an official truth. Beliefs surrounding this prophecy remain in the realm of private revelations and personal interpretations, far from a doctrine or official teaching. Therefore, the origins of this prophecy are unclear, with various reports and visions intertwining over the centuries. The prophecy continues to be a matter of faith for many, but without formal support from the Church, which raises even more doubts and questions about its authenticity. Among the most prominent figures associated with the prophecy of the 3 days of darkness is Blessed Anna Maria Thaia. Anna Maria, a mystic from the 19th century, became the leading voice in reporting what many believe to be a warning from God for the future. Anna Maria not only shared visions of this apocalyptic event, but described in terrifying detail what would happen during these 3 days of total darkness. According to her, during this dark period, the entire world would be enveloped in an immense darkness, so profound that no human being would be able to see anything around them. Not even the light of the stars or the moon would be visible. The most terrifying part, however, was that the only source of light allowed in this chaotic scenario would be blessed candles. Any other attempt to light artificial lights, such as lamps or ordinary candles, would result in disaster. A darkness so dense that all forms of human-made illumination would be useless, leaving humanity completely powerless in the face of what was to come. But things get even darker. Anna Maria Thaia was emphatic in describing the terrible consequences for anyone who dared to open a window or leave their house. In her visions, she made it clear that anyone who tried to peek at what was happening outside, out of curiosity or desperation, would fall dead the moment they did so. The sentence was severe and immediate. This would not only be a period of physical suffering, but also of instant death for those who violated divine rules. The few who followed the guidance to stay inside, with doors and windows closed, and pray fervently, would be under divine protection, according to her visions. The advice was simple: pray continuously, seek repentance, and trust in God's mercy. In her words, only those who prepared spiritually would be spared. What did this mean? For Anna Maria, spiritual preparation was the key to survival. Without it, there would be no salvation. During these 3 days of darkness, she also spoke of the presence of demonic forces, which would take horrific forms, spreading evil throughout the earth. They would be like creatures of darkness, hunting and torturing those who got lost in despair or were not properly protected. Anna Maria described a scene of total terror, where the only chance of protection would be staying in prayer, in silence, and with complete faith in divine power. This vision from Anna Maria Thaia is profoundly terrifying. The idea of endless darkness, the presence of demonic beings, and the severity of the punishments for those who disobeyed the instructions sends chills down the spine. She believed this event could be imminent and that humanity should prepare not just physically, but above all, spiritually. Are we ready to face something like this? What would happen if the world were really overtaken by such chaos? Stay tuned, as there are more details of this prophecy and how it connects to other terrifying events that may be coming. What would happen if what Anna Maria Thaia and other prophets said about the darkness wasn't just a metaphor, but something that could, in fact, occur in our modern world? One of the phenomena that many believe could trigger total darkness, as described in the prophecies, is the increase in solar activity. And what we are experiencing right now is a period of intense solar activity, which could cause more damage than we imagine. In recent months, the sun has experienced a significant increase in activity. What does this mean? Solar storms and coronal mass ejections, CMEs, powerful astronomical phenomena that release enormous amounts of radiation and charged particles into space. These solar storms, which occur when the sun releases massive energy explosions, can hit Earth and directly affect our communication and navigation systems. These charged particles, such as protons and electrons, travel quickly through space and can collide with Earth's atmosphere, causing what we know as geomagnetic storms. Now, what happens during a geomagnetic storm? It can destabilize Earth's magnetic field and, in some cases, cause significant failures in essential technological systems. The impact would be immense. Communication satellites could be damaged or deactivated, affecting everything from phone calls and TV broadcasts to GPS navigation, leaving airplanes and ships without direction. And as if that weren't enough, the disruption of financial systems and power grids could push the world to the brink of chaos. This scenario of massive disruption, which could paralyze modern communication methods, would force the world to return to a state of reliance on outdated communication methods. We would be forced to go back in time, when communication was done in a more primitive manner. This may seem unthinkable, but the Carrington event of 1859 shows us that something like this has happened before. The Carrington event was the most powerful solar storm ever recorded. In September 1859, a gigantic coronal mass ejection hit Earth and caused catastrophic damage. At the time, the most modern systems were telegraphs, and they were severely affected. Telegraph lines caught fire, and telegraph machines burned, even when they were disconnected from power sources. Imagine if a similar event occurred today, in a world interconnected by satellites, the internet, and digital financial systems. The severity of a solar storm of this magnitude would be unimaginable. The damage wouldn't be limited to a failure in communication systems, but would affect the entire global infrastructure. There would be days without the internet, without functioning banks, without electricity, and without the ability to communicate as we do today. For many, the reaction would be panic and desperation. And if this were to happen during a time of already existing social or political instability, what would remain would be a scenario of chaos, where people would have to cope with total dependence on technologies that would suddenly cease to exist. This is where the prophecy of the 3 days of darkness takes on an even more unsettling tone. If an event like this caused total darkness around the world, as suggested by ancient prophecies, solar storms could be the trigger to make this reality. And the most frightening part is that, according to scientists, we are in a period of maximum solar activity, meaning that the risk of events like the Carrington event could be greater than we think. So the question is, are we prepared to face a darkness caused not only by spiritual forces, but by a natural phenomenon of catastrophic proportions? What would happen if the systems that currently support our world shut down all of a sudden? What would become of humanity? The answer to that question may be closer than we think. Modern society, which is completely dependent on technology, is more vulnerable than it has ever been. The Carrington event of 1859 was a warning about the dangers of solar storms. But today, with the immense network of satellites, digital financial systems, and instant global communication, the damage would be incomparably more devastating. Imagine a scenario where all forms of communication fail, banks collapse, and the simple act of connecting with another person becomes impossible. Chaos would take over all aspects of daily life. Without the internet, without communication, without electricity, the impact would be catastrophic, radically changing the way we live. Society would have to adapt to a new reality without the modern tools we take for granted. life would return to older and more primitive methods, forcing people to completely rethink their routines and relationships. And if this event were accompanied by total darkness, as predicted by the prophecies, the scenario would become even more apocalyptic. This possible event would not only be a lesson in physical survival, but also a test for humanity in terms of how we would react in a time of extreme crisis. Would we be able to survive such a deep transformation in our lives? Or would it lead us to irreversible collapse? The future may hold frightening challenges, and the real question is, are we ready to face the natural and spiritual forces that may change the world forever? Stay tuned, because what is to come could redefine the course of human history. Until the next video.